Why is today's date important? Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. According to World Health Organization, we have an average of about 3,000 suicides per day. Every day, adding up to about 1 million every year. That's not counting the 10 to 20 times as many attempts. 90% of all those suicides result from an illness. The illness is called depression. Depression can affect anyone. Depression has many faces. Depression is treatable. You may have heard in the past about some recent examples that came across in the media. You may have heard about the German entrepreneur, the 5th richest man in the country, a billionaire who threw himself in front of a train at age 70. You may have read about the German soccer goalkeeper, a family man, a national hero who took his life in the midst of his career. You may have read about the employees in Chinese and French corporations who dominated newspapers for weeks. You may have heard about someone from your neighborhood. You may have heard about someone from my neighborhood. Depression is an illness whose consequences are fatal. Depression kills more people in Europe than car accidents do. What does society, what do you do about it? An average of 3,000 suicides a day, that's 1 every 2 minutes. That will sadly add up to 40 while I talk. Every single suicide is the result of a decision, someone making a choice, a person choosing between life and death. A person that might have thought that there actually was no choice. A person that might have suffered from depression but got no professional treatment, whose environment ignored all the symptoms, or he even got rejected with all his signals asking for help. It could be someone from your business environment, could be someone from my business environment, could be someone out of your private relations, could be someone out of my private relations. What does society, what do you do about it? Why is today's motto important? Eutropolis symbolizes a vision for a new type of city and for a new mindset. It will change our mindset. The idea itself already does in many, many different ways. You heard the discussions during the day. You can catch up on this idea. So the change is already happening. Eutropolis also sets an example how a paradigm shift can make physical, geographical, and regional borders fade. Borders that were initially set up by people as well, but based on their old paradigms. Eutropolis challenges all of us. In order to make it happen and become reality, many people need to make that same paradigm shift. Many people need to believe that it can be done. It's aiming at changing one part of the world, this area. What does society, what do you do about it? How important is it, though, to make borders fade in our minds as well? Borders remaining in our minds are keeping up prejudices and social taboos. Prejudices like that one that depression is a lack of motivation. Prejudices like that one that depression is a weakness in behavior. Borders in our minds keep up social taboos like that one just doesn't talk about suicide or depression, where as a matter of fact that could even be the first step towards professional help. Those prejudices and social taboos have drastic consequences as long as those borders in our minds remain. They kill people. An average of about 3,000 constantly, every day. What does society, what do you do about it? Borders in people's minds limit their thinking. They make people remain within their comfort zones. They often make people avoid to stay out of the crowd. They make people, we call it, think within the box. And they make people often choose acceptance and assimilation rather than change and challenge, even if they actually know better. Borders in people's minds lead to poor decisions. Too many decisions are driven by fear, anger, worry, etc. Too many people feel that they have to decide that way, that society expects it from them. And borders in people's minds lead to poor results. Poor decisions produce poor actions, therefore poor behavior. And poor actions produce poor results. What does society, what do you do about it? Where do these borders in people's minds actually come from? Like any other border, they were initially set up by people. Personal experiences, education, social conditioning, and many, many more influences produce those borders, man-made, in people's minds. In result, it's about how people think of themselves, how they perceive their roles in society. What identity do they have? And it's about how they deal with their states, their emotions, their souls, their place in this world. The US-American psychologist Martin Seligman defined the term of learned helplessness, describing that humans actually have the capacity to create the state of I can't themselves. People committing suicide who decide to take the action to kill oneself too often believe, I can't handle. I can't deal with it. I won't ever manage. How does society, how do you deal with it? Well, there's the good news. The good news is it's learnable. Personality can be developed. Strength can be learned. Fear can be turned into trust. Anger can be turned into love. And worry can be turned into hope. And weakness can be turned into strength. The psychologist Abraham Maslow created a model of the 4 stages of competence. Those 4 stages of competence can be applied in personality strength as well. What does it mean? Well, there's stage number 1, the unconscious incompetence, meaning that people have borders in their minds and they just don't know. They have no clue. They're unaware. Then things happen, and there's stage number 2, the conscious incompetence, meaning now they realize how these borders in their minds are actually limiting them in their thoughts, in their actions, and therefore in their results. And then there's stage number 4, the conscious competence, where people decide to make those borders in their minds fade, and they learn new competences. They change their mindset. They develop new skills. And they practice. And that leads to stage number 4, the unconscious competence, which means that people think of themselves differently and they just, as a habit, use different actions. They work in a different mindset. They live in using a different mindset. And by their stronger actions, they produce stronger results. This model of gaining competence can not only be applied for individuals, organizations, and communities can gain competence that way as well. How does society, how do you deal with it? The question could be, well, how important is it? Look at open-mindedness. What does open-mindedness do? Look at kids. Ever asked a kid to write a list for Christmas? Well, ask a 18-year-old, ask a 28-year-old, a 38-year-old. Kids have big dreams. They have visions. They got open minds. Open-mindedness leads to different choices. People imagine things without those borders. Everything, imagine, is key. Everything man has ever achieved started in man's mind first. It's there already. Open-mindedness. It's open minds that can free themselves from prejudices and social taboos. How important are stronger personalities? Ask yourself, take a look at society. What do outstanding artists, outstanding athletes, outstanding entrepreneurs, other outstanding people, what do they have in common? Often a strong personality. They defy the odds. They set new standards. They think in terms of, I choose to. I can imagine. I will. How important are stronger decisions? The choices completely change. Stronger decisions lead to stronger actions, stronger behavior. And in conclusion, they produce much better, sometimes outstanding results. It takes a decision to overcome prejudice and social taboos. What does society, what do you do about it? Well, now you could ask, can one person actually make that difference? And when you ask yourself, you might think of that story of that wise man who used to go to the ocean to do his writing. And he had a habit of walking along the shore in the morning. And one day, he saw a human figure in the distance, moving like a dancer. And he smiled to himself, thinking of someone who would dance to the day. So he walked closer to catch up. And then he realized it was a young man, but he wasn't dancing. Actually, that young man, he bent down, reached onto the shore, picked something up, and very gently threw it into the ocean. And as he got closer, he shouted out, "Good morning. What are you doing?" The young man paused, looked up, and replied, "I'm throwing starfish into the ocean." And the man said, "Okay, I should have asked, why are you doing it? The sun is out, the tide is going out. If I don't throw them in, they'll die." Well, young man, don't you realize there's miles and miles of beach and starfish all along it? You can't possibly make a difference. The young man listened politely, reached down, picked up another starfish, very gently threw it into the ocean past the breaking waves, and said, "It made a difference for that one." I believe that we can make a difference, one by one. Remember, it could be a person from your environment. It could be a person from my environment. And I trust that you and I were meant as well when Nelson Mandela once said, "There's no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than you're capable of living." In that sense, let us make a choice. Choose to grow strong and change the world.